Divorce lawyers of Reddit. What's the most outrageous reason someone filed for divorce? To avoid prison. Guy came in saying he was going to be indicted for many things. The list would have been impressive if it wasn't also sickening. So, he wanted to marry his accomplice because he saw on TV that your spouse can't testify against you without your permission, and the accomplice had cut a deal. He just needed to get this pesky marriage to his current wife dissolved. A man filed for divorce because he couldn't stand listening to his wife make the AAH sound after every drink. Apparently it got to him over the years. One straw really can break a camel's back. I'm related to a couple for whom the last straw was him laughing at a joke about how to light birthday candles. Important context. Things had been rocky for a while, and they'd gone back and forth with trial separations, counseling, renewal retreats, reconciliations that didn't quite last, etc. But then they were at their son's birthday party, and another relative started lighting the candles from the left side of the cake. Wife, why didn't you start from the center and light outward? Relative, I thought about it, but I was worried you'd have nothing to complain about. Husband, chuckles wife, storms out in tears. Files for divorce the next week. Obviously, it would be dumb to say they divorced over the birthday candles, or over a joke. To her, him laughing at a joke that was made at her expense was a sign of the lack of respect between them, and she just couldn't take living with him if things were going to be like that. They're both happily remarried and stayed civil as co-parents. Guy came in and wanted to divorce his wife because he found out that she was still married to some other guy. He then asked me if he needed to tell his other wife that he was married to this wife. This was a free legal clinic and everyone was homeless. Oh boy, I've been working at a family law firm for 3 years and I have seen/heard some crazy stuff. For example, 1. We handled the divorce for an older man, 70s. BC. He was cheating and wanted to be with his mistress. 2 years go by. He comes back to divorce the mistress. BC. He's been cheating on her with his first wife. 2. Wife found photos of her husband dressed up as a ballerina. 3. Husband files for divorce. BC. Wife does cocaine. He brings us photos of her with coke on her bare boobs. Then admits he took the photos. Then admits he's the one with the coke habit. 4. Wife filed for divorce. BC. She didn't want to relocate to a neighboring state for his promotion. 5. Couple with open marriage both end up jealous and call different law firms and file separate complaints for divorce within hours of each other. 30 minutes after the wedding, bride found him having sex with one of the bridesmaids. That story shocked me. It was my stepdad's client. My father divorced a woman who made his sandwich wrong. Well, she made it with an end piece, so he divorced her. He married 7 times. Never to my mother Mayo. My uncle's 4th or 5th wife filed for divorce because he demanded she make him a steak and then berated her because it was a cheap cut and overdone, and another woman had recently made him a medium rare sirloin he liked better. She ended up taking him back, and the whole family was like, but why? Overheard in court one day a woman wanted to divorce her husband because he likes taking pictures of trains and had been doing so 4 years before. Former paralegal here. I worked for a small firm and we had woman come to file a fault divorce and husband was to blame. She filled out the paperwork but didn't put a reason, which we need for fault divorce. Yeah, no. My boss and I sat down with her and ran down the reasons. Abusive to her? No. He never raised his hand to her. Abusive to the kids? No. He was a great father. Cheating? No. He was faithful. Addictions? No. He never drank or did drugs. Actually he was, but we'll get to that in a minute. Having sex with you? Yep. Money trouble? Nope. What was the problem? Dude. Cold and quit looking at porn. He was a porn addict, but the wife didn't consider that addiction because it wasn't drugs or alcohol. You're probably thinking, what's weird? That seems like normal reason to file, and people probably do. Dude was addicted to goat porn. Like farm animals. She brought in hundreds of pages of his porn searches and saved files. It wasn't even people having sex with goats, it was goats having sex with other goats. He also liked to watch mules be bred. It was strange to say the least. We called him the goat, grossest of all time. There was some human and animal stuff, but the goats are what stuck with me. Him betting he isn't allowed near petting zoos. She saw him in bike shorts and said she could never be sexually attracted to him again. A man wanted to divorce his wife, fault and no fault type of divorce, because she was diagnosed with cancer. I did maybe 5 divorces. I had one client who, after I met her soon to be ex-husband, stated, "Do you see how retarded he is? That's why I have to divorce him. If I had known how retarded he was, I never would have married him." The guy fired his lawyer once a month and constantly tried to file obviously fabricated or altered documents when he was between counsel. Eventually, very favorably for my client, we settled since he couldn't find someone to take his case and was looking at felony charges for all the fake documents. I loved that case because it was just such a circus and my client was very reasonable. My friend's wife divorced him because he wasn't black enough. He immigrated to the US from Eritrea and I guess somehow that's not black enough. Not qualified, but butting in nevertheless with a story my physician brother told me. His patients tell him everything. One of his patients got divorced because after his girlfriend and he got married, the girlfriend began bugging him about quitting the meds he was taking for depression and anxiety because she should be enough or some such thing. He eventually did. Then later she wanted a divorce because he wasn't the same guy she married. Friend and her husband got bored in the bedroom. So the husband convinced his female coworker, who was a lesbian, to join in. Friend decided she liked her better and divorced him to be with the coworker. They got married and she eventually left her too for her new male coworker. So yeah, coworkers, man. She couldn't stand the sight of him anymore. I was in the military at a recovery unit, just reporting in. I heard her saying this to a chaplain while he sat there, in a wheelchair. Majority of his skin was covered in burns. 1,000-yard stare, no emotion. Not a divorce, but an interracial couple from my high school had been engaged for almost a year and the man broke it off because races aren't supposed to mix. After 7 years of marriage, a husband, unbeknownst to the wife, started trying to convince their nanny to have a /0 threesome, telling her his wife would be really into it. He was a Wall Street guy and she was a physician. And the nanny had been with them since their first kid was born 4 years earlier. The nanny finally made a move on the wife, who told her it was inappropriate. But a few months later, they got drunk and they had that threesome. It turned into a regular thing. The husband was totally happy until the wife said she and the nanny were in love with each other and she was leaving him for the nanny. During the custody proceedings, the husband tried to argue the nanny was an illegal immigrant, which was ridiculous. In the end, the wife got primary custody. 3 years later, the wife and nanny are still together, though they hired a new nanny. My friend's parents, because she was tired of the husband being too short, the same height as when they started dating. Not a lawyer, but this was big gossip at the church I went to. One of the more prominent members of the church filed for divorce because his wife was battling stage 4 ovarian cancer. His claim was that she was unable to perform marital duties. She died shortly after the divorce. People were pissed when they found out, and he became a social pariah and left the church. Anyone who divorces their spouse during cancer, unless there is extreme abuse, financial malfeasance, or some other horrible truth or secret is revealed, we're talking like pedophilia, being a violent racist, infidelity, etc., is nothing short of scum. Doubly so if it is over something like the inability to have sex. Because cancer ducking sucks. I'm glad the church pariahed that guy. No excuse. Edit. A few people brought up a good point about the medical system and getting treatment as a single person being financially sound. If you intend to support and remain friends or possibly get remarried, depending on your life goals, that's an extenuating circumstance on the other side. My animus is directed more towards people who simply divorce to be rid of someone or feel inconvenienced by someone's illness, especially if everything else relationship wise was healthy and stable. I get things are complicated, but flat dumping people for being sick, especially if you've been invested, is just cruel in my opinion. Edit. Wow. This generated a lively discussion and gave me alternative viewpoints to consider. Thanks to everyone who replied. Divorce lawyer here. And to be honest, most divorces come down to two things. 1. Fighting too much / poor communication, usually about money, and 2. Cheating. Both are a symptom of falling out of love or realizing you didn't love them enough in the first place and something is the last straw. That's probably 97% of divorce cases right there. I don't think I've had too many unusual reasons for getting divorced, but family law is indeed full of drama and crazy situations. I once had to visit a client after she was involuntarily committed to a mental hospital. She thought she and her mechanic, who she had delusions was her boyfriend, were two halves of the reincarnated Jesus Christ. She was untreated bipolar second. Also had a wife whose husband literally wore tinfoil on his head and handcuffed her to a cabinet. She refused to press charges against him. Not a lawyer. But my in-laws divorced because straw that broke the camel's back. She hit him on the back of the hand with a wooden spoon for reaching into the food she was still cooking. My mom and stepdad, married when I was 4, been together 20 years. Wasn't a great marriage, so none of us kids were surprised when mom told us they were getting divorced. What she didn't tell us was that she was having an affair with a much older man, who is also still married, whose current wife has advanced stage Alzheimer's, and she hadn't told dad before she informed us kids. So, I'm not a divorce lawyer, but this happened to a good friend of mine. Her brother, Kevin, married a woman that started using Snuggle fabric softener. Kevin ended up having a crazy allergic reaction to the Snuggle, but his wife refused to stop using it because she liked it so much. Even when he washed his own clothes without it being used on her clothes still caused a reaction so badly he had to be hospitalized. Still yet, she refused to stop using Snuggle. So, they got a divorce over Snuggle. Obligatory, not a lawyer, but my cousin divorced her husband because she was gay. Always was and always had been. But only got married to appease her fanatically religious parents. The outrageous reason was because she completely blindsided the guy. She dated the first guy that fell in love with her. They got engaged after like 6 months. Had the whole white wedding shebang and got married quite young. I think she was 21. And 6 months after the wedding tells him basically thanks for playing along. Now here is the divorce papers and I'm running off to another state with my lover, who was the maid of honor by the way. He was not playing along. He had no clue. I remember seeing a thing where a man won the lottery and his wife filed divorce so she could get the proceedings of the lottery as part of the divorce. The judge confirmed the divorce and either he kept all the money or she had to pay him. There is a similar one in CA where the wife won the lottery, an annuity payout, and didn't tell the husband, but filed for divorce so she could keep the money. They were divorced, and 2 years later the husband got a letter as his address from one of those companies that offer to pay you a lump sum in exchange for you turning over the annuity payments. He thought it was odd and looked into it. They went back to court and the judge was so pissed at what the wife did she awarded the entire amount of the lottery winnings to the husband. He squeezed the toothpaste directly into his mouth instead of on the toothbrush. This is why it doesn't hurt to live with someone before you marry them. I actually had a girlfriend in college ask me to FaceTime her while brushing my teeth because she wanted to hear what sound I made when I brushed my tongue and spat. I guess she really didn't like the sound of gagging or something because I passed the test. Some people have some weird deal breakers. Women wants divorce because husband is not at home by 5 p.m. She didn't understand that he had a job to do. I dated a girl a couple years back, and if I wasn't home within 5 minutes of the time she expected me to be home, she thought I was cheating on her. My commute from work to home was about 50 minutes to an hour. If I was late, she would call me and ask me who I was with. Nobody, I'm by myself in my car. Apostrophe. Not a lawyer, but I remember seeing on the news this guy wanted his kidney back from his ex-wife. Saw a woman filed for divorce because her husband farted in bed. The wife said he left the fridge open twice. I looked at the guy and just said I'm sorry with an expression. A guy I know wanted a divorce because his wife had an affair with a junkie, unprotected sex, threatened suicide to their daughter's face, and proclaimed her affair was a cry for help. GUI=ME. She never really loved him. She used him to get pregnant. They have 3 kids. She kept on urging him on to buy a brand new house in one of those cookie cutter neighborhoods. Her plan was to divorce him, take all 3 kids, and take the brand new house, but him pay for it, and have him pay child support on all 3 kids. Her lawyer wasn't comfortable with this at all, considering he had all their financial information, and husband was making just enough for all 5 of them to get by, before husband was able to sign papers on a new house. Her lawyer accidentally left a message on his phone, instead of her phone, going over the final draft of the divorce. Add on, so where I live, both parties have to be aware of the divorce. You can't just sneak attack on your spouse, like this woman was doing. They have to have some knowledge of it. Even if one spouse just straight up shouts, "I'm gonna divorce you," that would count. So I don't think the lawyer is in a situation where he'd be in trouble for doing what he did. I knew a guy that split amicably with his then wife. They both just decided they weren't working together. They have a daughter, and they agreed on a specific amount for child support that made sense and both parties were happy. In court, the judge or lawyer told the wife, "Are you sure that's all you want him to pay? You can get him for more." The legal counsel was pushing her to duck him over harder. Blew my mind. People are disgusting. Edit. She was a G, and told them what they agreed on was all she wanted. Bless up for the real ones out there. My friend's ex-wife filed because he woke up from a nap. I don't even know what it means, but I believe him. So I'm not a lawyer, but my brother first was, because she tried to drown their kids. She said someone on the TV looked at her and told her to do it. Second divorce was because she left him for her lifelong best friend's sister. Then she leaves her wife for my brother again. They are getting married again in October. Not a divorce lawyer but life coach. Knew a man who insisted he needed a divorce because his wife was always wasting money. He gave my list, with receipts, of all things she wasted money on. It included fries at Wendy's, synthetic oil change on her car, groceries, vet bills for their dog. I dated a guy once that accused me of trying to take all his money when I asked if he would trade me his 2 $5 bills for my $10. I work at a divorce court and a high school friend came in with her stepmom and ex-boyfriend from back in HS. We graduated 12 years ago. Apparently, the stepmom was finally divorcing the dad after 14 years of cheating on the dad with her stepdaughter's boyfriend. The entire interaction was super weird because I wasn't helping them, conflict of interest, but was sitting in the clerk's booth right next to them as the guy flirted with both of them. Not a divorce lawyer, but the news story of the couple that was enjoying time in their backyard in front of a fire pit. The husband being the dumbass that he has added either alcohol or gasoline to keep the flames from getting too low. This led to the fire engulfing his wife. The accident caused major burns all across her body. After her recovery he left her and their little girl cause he couldn't look at her anymore. I broke up with a guy because he wouldn't clean out his cat's litter box regularly. The cat stank up my house and ruined the wall next its litter box. The final straw was when the dude went to Florida with his friends and left a full of shit litter box behind without him ever asking me to take care of the cat while he was gone. I'm sure I seemed like the crazy one in the situation, but I didn't care. It took a month for the smell to go away and I deep cleaned that ducking room twice. Not divorce but similar and wanting to share. My partner's ex took her to court claiming that we were leaving the country with their son while he had the son's passport. Not divorce, but breakup. I left a woman cause she lived on the 11th floor without an elevator. What type of person moves into a place like that? Edit. What is this scene-filled reference? Can someone give me an episode I should watch? Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.